What is happening, people? Welcome back to the Scarfey Talks Premier League podcast. In this episode, we'll be previewing Game Week 24 of the Premier League. Last time out, we reviewed Game Week 23, which had lots of goals and entertainment, and this weekend as well, big games in store. And I've got two excellent guests with me. Firstly, I've got Arsenal fan Matt on. Matt, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm good. I've just come off the back of a nervy 3-2 win at the Emirates last night, but yeah, I'm good. In good shape.
Good stuff. We can get back to winning ways for Arsenal, and you didn't make it pretty. And you saw parts of your game. I thought that's not perfect, but the result is what matters. And of course, your job was already done in the Champions League, qualified before a ball was kicked. Matt, thank you for your time. Louis, thank you very much for coming on as a West Ham fan. Of course, a couple of wins under your belt in 2026. How are you doing?
I'm doing very good, very, very good. It's nice to be on here with a win, positive results since I was last on, and interesting set of games coming up.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Welcome in to everyone as well, listening, whether it be via YouTube or podcast platform. I was told earlier, I sound like Mickey Mouse. I'm currently batting the flu, so that's why I don't know if it's Mickey Mouse, but some people say that. So, hey ho, you're welcome to say it, whatever. But thank you very much nonetheless. And big thanks to my two guests for coming on. Let's get straight into it then with our Game Week 24 preview, and we'll start with Leeds and Arsenal. So, Matt, of course, we're going to start with you. Give us your thoughts ahead of this one, because would you say it's fair to say, I think it is, that this could be a banana skin? Leeds good form in the last several weeks, really, and getting results. This could be tough for Arsenal.
Yeah, especially at their place, and especially since a couple of months ago they changed tactics under Daniel Farke, and it's seemed to have gone really well for them. So yeah, I am quite, a bit nervous about this game, but I back my team and I back the quality that we have over Leeds United, and it should be a win. But obviously, in football, there's no guarantees. And Leeds over the past 5 or 6 games, they've had some very good results. Against Chelsea, against Liverpool, they've had some good results. They came off a 1-1 draw against Everton, I believe. So yeah, they're in good form. We are in good-ish form in that the performances have been poor. We are getting the results in other competitions other than the Premier League, unfortunately. But we come off a win, so hopefully that galvanizes the team to get over the line this weekend.
Okay, fingers crossed. Thank you, and get that score prediction in a second. Thank you very much, Louis. How do you think this game will go for Leeds? Of course, they might view it as an opportunity to jump on Arsenal's last defeat in the league.
It's an interesting one, as we said. Both sides are obviously in their own retrospective ways done very well this season. Arsenal have just become the first team to win 8 out of 8 games in the UCL phase, and Leeds have actually lost the least amount of games of anyone since December. So, it goes to show they're both on good bits of form. Leeds at home is going to be very tough. I think if Arsenal were at the Emirates, I would have this as a easy Arsenal win right off for Leeds. But it's at Ellen Road, and we know at Ellen Road they are a very, very, very tough team. I think Arsenal will probably edge it ever so slightly, but I do not think it will be an easy game by any means. And if I had to give a score prediction, I was tempted to go 1-0 Arsenal, but I think Leeds might get a goal, so 2-1 Arsenal.
Okay, 2-1 Arsenal. Matt, what do you reckon?
For a second, I thought he was predicting a draw. I was like, that's just really frustrating. I think from Arteta's press conference a couple of days ago, I think it was just before the Carrot game last night, he said something quite interesting, and it sounded like we're going to play with more freedom and we're going to go at teams and attack them. So judging by that, I think we're going to score a few goals, and I think Leeds will score, and I think it will be 3-1 Arsenal.
Okay, 3-1 Arsenal. Interesting. I mean, that's what you want to see, surely, as an Arsenal fan. You want to see how going for it. It suits the players like Eze as well, Odegaard. You say, boom, do what your magic and let's attack teams rather than sit behind the ball or pass sideways and backwards. Next game then, Wolves and Bournemouth. Wolves completely different side in 2026, but suffered defeat last time out, as expected, it's fair to say, against City at the Etihad. Bournemouth, a few positive results, beating Tottenham and Liverpool in the last month or so. Louis, this time starting with you. What are your thoughts on this game? I mean, it's not one that catches the eye necessarily, but I'd still argue an important one for both. Bournemouth don't want to get dragged into this, well, let's just say dragged anything nasty, but I don't think they will do. And Wolves, of course, a lot of it is about pride, but ultimately they need points on the board.
For sure, this game is one of the many ones this week, which is more, I think, focused towards the relegation sides and the relegation battles of who can and can't get dragged in. I think come the end of this weekend, we will have quite a telling set of results given who's playing who. I mean, here in this game, we got two sides which have just like to concede goals, and that's with respect to both of them. But Wolves are bottom of the league for a reason, and Bournemouth have conceded 33 goals since November. That's almost one every. That's far too much, far too much. And I think they have both picked up form in their own ways. We saw Bournemouth got that very well-deserved victory, in my opinion, against Liverpool. They were the better team, and they might have left it to the last minute. They don't like making it easy for themselves, but they get there in the end, and I think they probably will edge over Wolves. I know Wolves had a very good start to the year, but I do think, even though it was probably an expected result against Manchester City, I have a feeling that might have knocked their confidence off their pedestal a little bit. Just because when you're on that run of games and you have that unbeaten streak, you bring it into the next game regardless of who you play. It's a bit, you can't just, even though it might have been a write-off game, you still can't pretend that it didn't happen. I think it will be a slight knock of confidence, and Bournemouth will probably edge over it. If I had to give a score prediction, I'll probably go with 3-2 Bournemouth.
3-2 Bournemouth, that one. Okay, so you're back in the away side, you're back in the Cherries, Areola side. Thank you very much. Matt, give us your thoughts and then with your score prediction as well for Wolves and Bournemouth.
Look, for Wolves, they put a decent performance against Man City, but at the end of the day, it was just quality that won the game. With Bournemouth, they got an excellent win against Liverpool. Was that home or away? Was it Anfield?
Vitality.
Yeah, it's at Vitality.
Oh, it was. Okay. So they got a good point, a good 3 points at home. I think they're going to head into this game with a lot of confidence, but it being at Wolves, I just think they'll get something. I'm going 2-2.
2-2, love that. Thank you very much. 4 goals in that game you're predicting. Both of you predicting, a lot of goals so far. Brighton and Everton then. I mean, I like to describe some sides as weird, and both of these I think apply because Brighton, I think they've underperformed. I don't think it's been spoken about enough. If I'm being honest with you, when you get the manager and Fabian Hertz who sat here and said that we want to finish inside the top 5, and to be where Brighton are, I just think it has to be talked about a little bit more. And Everton, I think. Louis is the one who sums it up perfectly, half-heartedly. I think it's the way he described it on the last podcast, fighting for Europe. That's exactly the right way to put it. I think it's the right way to describe what we're seeing right now. But Matt, coming to you, how do you feel about this game? It has a draw maybe written all over it.
This is a weird game because Brighton just don't really look good. But you look at them, in the table and they're 12th place, which you would kind of expect Brighton to be around, that 10th, 12th place. And you look at Everton and they're in 10th. And I thought Everton have, had a decent season. Under David Moyes, they've been getting a lot of good results. Jack Grealish and Dye, have been very important players for them. But they just win, draw, loss. It's just quite inconsistent with them. So I think Everton are going to get another point in this game, and I think it's just going to be a lousy 1-1 draw.
1-1 draw, yes. We'll have that down in my notes as well. Thank you very much. Louis, anything to add on this game and also your score prediction, please?
Again, as already mentioned, it's a weird game. Two sides, both inconsistent, both weird. You know, Brighton, you were just saying there, Harry, how you thought it's gone a bit unnoticed, the fact that they haven't done very well this season. I've got to agree with you because I found out before this podcast that since December, they've earned, the only two teams who've earned less points than Brighton have been Burnley and Wolves. And that's quite disappointing. They are quite literally currently on relegation
I think Tottenham were
level.
somewhere there as well.
They're not Tottenham in this one. Goes to show that's how bad they have been, though. And it is concerning, I think, because they have spent quite a lot of money. They've spent a few years building the squad now. It should have been something. And to speak upon Everton here as well, it's what I've been saying is Moyes has a great start to the first half of the season, and come the second half, it all capitulates. I know that they got that win against Villa, but in all honesty, we can probably admit that that was quite a lucky victory, a very lucky goal, and they were lucky to not get players sent off and whatnot. It was a very weird game, that. But again, we've got two inconsistent teams here, and for some reason, something tells me it's not going to be a draw. So I've just gone with a classic home side victory. I've gone 2-1 Brighton.
2-1 Brighton. Okay, thank you very much. And Louis, we'll stick with you as a West Ham fan because Chelsea and West Ham are up next. You've expressed your admiration ultimately for Liam Rossini, who I think we can both agree is doing a fantastic job at the moment. You know, Chelsea have been excellent, and he seems to have really come in and steadied the ship. Let's just say. So, what are your thoughts ahead of this game? Do you think this could be tough for West Ham?
I think this is going to be a wacky match. That's what I will say. I think it's going to be a weird game. We don't have a good record at the Bridge. I think the last time we won at the Bridge was in 2019. And in all honesty, I think this is going to be quite an intense one. There are currently 3 teams in the Premier League at the moment that have won back-to-back games in this given moment of time, and that's West Ham, Chelsea, and Manchester United. And we're playing each other here, and someone's going to have to lose that record for the time being. It's one of those where I feel our recent play has been very inconsistent. I can't speak here and say how we're going to play because we initially adopted this very attacking style of football, threw everything out the window, adopted this attacking style of football against Spurs. It works. I thought it was just going to be because it was a London derby. Then we maintained it against Sunderland, did really well again. And now my thought process is, okay, are we now going to get rid of it because we're playing a top 6 side and we might be more scared? Because that's what we always tend to do. So it does make you consider as a West Ham fan, how are we even going to play? We don't have any injuries. We have sold Paqueta since our last game, which doesn't really have much of an impact given that he hasn't played in the last 2 victories that we have had. We haven't got any injuries, but Chelsea are in good form. They're finding their way back into games. Well, I thought when they were losing 2-1 against Napoli last night, I thought that they're going to get back into this, and they did. They seemed to be able to dig deep under Rossini and actually push to get a result, which under Maresca they were struggling with. I think if West Ham were to go very attacking at the beginning of the game, Chelsea are still a very rash team. They dive into challenges, they make a lot of errors, and their defence still isn't strong, regardless of the manager. So I'm going to go with the prediction of this game being 1-1. But I think it has a chance to be very high goal scoring, and it could go either way. But I think we might sort of cancel each other out in our own ways. So I'll go 1-1.
1-1, okay. And, Louis, we'll come back to that Lucas Paquetá conversation in just a second, if you don't mind. And a few pieces of Premier League news. There's quite a lot to speak about, of course, in terms of transfers. But we'll come back to that for sure. Thank you. Matt, can I get your thoughts on this game, London derby, and also your score prediction as well at the end?
I think Chelsea will have one eye on the Carabao Cup semi-final. Having said that, I do think Chelsea are going to win. But I don't think it's going to be as straightforward as everyone thinks. Chelsea, are in fine form. It's at home for them. I don't think it's going to be that straightforward because I think they'll probably rotate a few players. Like, I don't think Cole Palmer will start. Probably be Esteban and then Enzo Fernandez in the 10. I want to back West Ham here, but I think it's going to be 2-1 Chelsea.
2-1
I think they'll
Chelsea.
just make it.
Okay, thank you very much, on Lucas Paquetá. Then you've expressed your, how you've liked Lucas Paquetá and his time at West Ham and what he's had to offer. So I assume you'll be quite upset to see him go. Do you think it's the right thing to do or not? And what do you think about also the valuation? The money you've got ultimately for him. Is that a good deal for West Ham?
It's 100% the right decision. I think we have to, as much as we have to view this game as fans and people who we pay to watch, we also have to look at it from a personal perspective. This is a man who we bought from the French league. He came to the English league, quite frankly, dominated the Premier League once arriving, was going to earn himself a great move to Manchester City. We had an 80 million deal all set in place. Betting allegation came along. Transfer fell down. 2 years of his life got wasted. Struggled with form, broke down on the pitch, got mocked every time he got booked. And all of this whilst in a country he doesn't speak the language of. And people expect him to be happy and give 100% of the game. He had reporters harassing him and his family for the entire duration of the case. Finally got cleared and was still being hounded by the press. Why would you be happy to stay here? This isn't about the club. This is about just a human being. I don't think we can fault him at all. This is a guy who assisted the winning goal for the Conference League final. This is a guy who gave 110% for the badge every single time he played. He may have had games he wasn't as good. His stats are not particularly great if you take the first season out of account. I think we've done very well to get the fee that we did. It's a Brazilian record for the highest transfer fee that they've ever had. So we have broken a record selling him back there. He's in the prime of his career. He rejected moves to Chelsea and Spurs. He simply just wants to go home. He wants to go back to a place that he feels connected to. And I don't think anybody can slander him for that. I understand that in the bigger picture, he's leaving West Ham whilst they're in a relegation fight. It doesn't look pretty, but when you look into the deeper aspect of it, I think he has all consideration to leave and all right to leave.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. I've seen some West Ham fans that have been, not necessarily mean nasty towards him, but they've been quite upset, by his kind of whole dealing with the situation. So appreciate your balanced outlook there. It's really good to hear. Liverpool and Newcastle then the next game. I think this is a big one, and Newcastle, I think the results have been a lot better recently, and they've really driven themselves up the table. Not perfect, but a lot better. And for Liverpool as well, again, I think they've been better, but both of these clubs still they get criticism and still results aren't perfect, but a lot better than they both were at the start of the season. Matt, starting with you this time, how do you see this one going? Because it's a big game on paper.
I see this one going only one way, and I think it might be quite heavy scoring. I think Liverpool scoring 6 goals midweek is going to give them a lot of confidence. Salah scoring, Verts is starting to score a lot of goals now, and he's starting to assist a lot. Szoboszlai, again, he just scores or assists every game, and he's always impactful. Somehow Van Dijk got 3 assists. Don't really know how that happened. Never seen that before, really. But I think Liverpool are going to win 3-0.
Comfortable win you're going forward with Liverpool. If I'm honest with you, when you said there's only one winner, I didn't know which way you go. I know Newcastle got players out and Liverpool will be the favourites, but the way that sometimes Liverpool play, look at a result against Bournemouth, I didn't know what you'd say, honestly. So thank you very much. Louis, are you under the same impression that you expect Liverpool to win this one? I personally think it'll be tight, but incredibly hard to call. Both teams playing in Europe.
No, actually, I am the other way around. When I was thinking about this game, I predicted Newcastle to win 2-1. I just think Liverpool at the moment, they have no confidence. I know they just won 6-0, but you get minimal confidence from a game like that. It is a great win, very, very comfortable and whatnot, but the reality is they've not been good enough. They've only got one fit centre-back at the moment. They're playing Newcastle, they've been like a flip of a coin, Newcastle. 1 minute they're brilliant, and the next minute they're not. Guimaraes is a doubt for the game, so that could be quite a big problem for them. And I just don't. I feel Newcastle have lost this fight that they've had these past 2 seasons. When I saw the game against PSG yesterday for them, it almost seemed like they were comfortable with the draw. I know they were playing a very tough side, but they understood that a draw wouldn't mean anything. A draw and a loss would equate to the same thing. They needed to win to get through, and they didn't. Which will also now be 2 more costly games for them. That's another 2 games they have to play whilst suffering from injuries. And regardless of who they play, whether they win or not, whether it's someone quote unquote easy, doesn't matter. It's 2 extra games, minimum 180 minutes. Not fun. And I think it will be quite a close one against Liverpool, but I simply think that Arne Slot's lost the plot. He doesn't know what he's doing. I think some of the comments he's been making recently have been very, very questionable. And, I'm sure some people have seen them against Jurgen Klopp. Jurgen Klopp is such a well-respected manager amongst Liverpool fans. Why would you go at him? When you're already under pressure, why would you go at someone who's incredibly well-respected? And, if you start to piece pictures together, first it was Salah and now it's Klopp. Is it the individual's fault or is it Arne Slot's fault? We've got to start posing these questions. And in my opinion, every time I see these comments, I just think he's trying to take a page out of Amorim's book. Is he trying to say something to get sacked deliberately? I'm beyond shocked. So I think it's all falling apart over there. We've seen Anfield's not what it was this season. So I've gone with the Newcastle win 2-1.
Louis, thank you. And just to touch on and go further on some of the points you made there, I mean, it's interesting. I personally feel interested to get your thoughts back on this, but it's similar in a way, not completely identical, but similar that Thomas Frank's situation at Tottenham, where it starts off okay, feel your connection's okay with the fans, decent at times. It was never perfect with Thomas Frank. Slot had a little bit more of connection after winning that title, but the point is they both opt the route of criticism, of something former that fans felt closely. Like, Frank saying, yeah, but we're not Champions League club. Yeah, we finished 17th last year. He's now down talking Ange, for example. And don't get me wrong, he's not up here for us Spurs fans. But after winning the first European trophy in 41 years, the first major trophy in 17 years, I'd say the majority of us that are sensible are thankful, and grateful for the trophy, even if we didn't want him to stay. It's just the fact now he's going, yeah, but we're so much better than last year. Last year we were dreadful and 17th. Why do managers do this? I call it self-destruct with some of the comments, and have you bitch and moan when it's necessary, and in particular do it behind the scenes. But that's the thing. Like, Glass has gone so far now. I think he's lost the majority of Palace fans, even though I think he's right. Even though he's been failed. Like, he's going on and on, and it sounds like a broken record, and then you just go too far with some of your comments. Again, to use another example again, but Frank with Tottenham's another example, just some of these lazy comments. Like, he comes and said at the start of the season, I don't get criticism from Spurs fans in my face, come and say it to my face. Well, he's now been told to his face, for being booed and taunted, and it's the Waste End in particular, but also at home's quite nasty. It's all aimed towards him, and I completely think that's wrong. But at the same time, you bring it on as a manager when you say, come and say it to my face, in his words. So why do these managers do it? Doesn't make sense.
I think you touched on it very briefly there, and I think in these moments it's a lapse in concentration. I think you've got to remember, across not to say what they're saying is right, by the way, but it's just when you think about how many press conferences they do, there's only so much media training can take you. Eventually, you just want to say what's going on within your head, and you think, look, listen here, right? We're useless, but I can't say that. Things aren't going well. It's not brilliant, I know that, but we have to make the best of what we got. And there are some times I think managers just say stuff and it's got absolutely no relation. So I haven't really seen much about Frank, so I don't think it would feel exactly right for me to comment on it. But with the Arne Slot comment yesterday about the Europa League, there was no need to mention that. There was absolutely no reason to say anything of the sort for that. And I feel managers, once they say something in a press conference, it's recorded by about 1,000 different devices. They can't take it back. Once it's out there, it's out there. They've got to just take it on the chin and move on. I think pressure gets the managers and they might spew out things that they don't mean, or they simply just have a lapse. And I can't even say. I mean, I've had West Ham, I've had many of them, such as when Graham Potter wished Tottenham well for winning a European trophy. I mean, it's not the wisest thing to do as a West Ham manager, but managers do bizarre things sometimes.
They certainly do. If people missed those Slot comments that Louis talking about, the Slot said after yesterday's win, saying we're happy to be in the last 16, especially when only 2 years ago we were in the Europa League and lost to Atalanta. So clear dig there, not mentioning Klopp's title or Champions League, but the fact that 2 years ago in the Europa League, completely random, really. And he might not have meant it that way, but I think the Slot is very intelligent. If you listen to him, he's very intelligent. He's very articulate. I like the way he comes across. I think he's a decent guy. So I think he knows what he's doing here. It's a clear hit to take the pressure off him, but I don't know. When I say he's a clever guy, surely you think it's not going to go down well. Before we move on, Matt, anything to add on because I know you've spoken about it before, your opinion on Arne Slot, on the whole situation at Liverpool? Of course, it's a big talking point because Liverpool have fallen off a cliff. They're not like, okay, where Tottenham are necessarily, maybe, and other clubs that are big clubs in the bottom half. But it feels like Liverpool's fall off is greater because they walked the title last year, as you will know as an Arsenal fan, then spent all this money. I mean, you did as well, but they spent huge money as well and just haven't delivered. They've got worse. They've retracted significantly. So, speak your mind on the Liverpool situation.
I just think they're in a very bad situation, and I'm going to be honest here because it is bad when you put it all together. In Salah, Van Dijk, and Alisson are basically their core, and one of those is already down tools, which is Salah. Van Dijk just doesn't look great defensively anymore. Scoring goals wise, contributing in attack somehow, he's still good at that, but defending, he's very, very suspect this season. And with Alisson, he's picking up injuries here and there, and I just think that with Slot, he is trying to sack himself, and had he not won the Premier League last season, he probably would have already been gone. And I think it's with the ownership that they don't want to pull that trigger. I don't know why, because Xabi Alonso's out there. He would be a very, very key manager for them. But for some reason, they just don't want to pull that trigger. And I mean, the stuff he's saying about the club, I still don't understand how he's not sacked.
Indeed, Liverpool been incredibly patient. We'll move on. Next game, Aston Villa and Brentford. Louis, I mean, the question is, can Brentford recover from their setback defeat at home to Forest? You made such a key point that at the time I thought, okay, that's an interesting point. But now I look back and go, I think you're absolutely spot on, if I'm honest with you. And you're right in what you say in terms of when you keep Igo Thiago and Kevin Schade quiet, you keep Brentford quiet. And of course, there'll be more to that, like Brentford's long throw-ins, their set pieces are fantastic, like they were under Thomas Frank, who's learnt from the master, in my view, and Keith Andrews. But Brentford, ultimately, there's the two stars. Keep them quiet, you keep Brentford quiet, in your words. So what do you think ahead of this game?
It's going to be an interesting one. I do think Villa will win it. But again, Villa are a team this season that haven't been, on paper, very glamorous in terms of the amount of shots they have or the amount of goals they have and how pretty their games are. In the last 5 matches, they've only scored 5 goals. It goes to show that they focus their games more on being clinical. The problems that they are having at the moment with Villa, in particular, are the injuries. We saw Kamara is injured until the end of the season. McGinn and Tielemans are also out now. So they've lost probably out of 4 great midfielders, they've lost about 3 of them. So I think they will struggle in that regard. But it being at Villa Park, I think that this game is already gone to Villa. Brentford have been struggling. They were very, very poor against Nottingham Forest. And a poor Nottingham Forest side, should I add. And I don't think this game week, they will come back from that. Maybe in the future, I'm not exactly sure who they have after Villa. But I think at this given moment in time, I think this will be Villa's game. And despite the fact Villa have scored limited goals, I've gone with 3-0 Villa.
Okay, 3-0 Aston Villa. Thank you very much, Louis, on that one. Very convincing win, you think, for Unai Emery's side. Matt, can I get your thoughts and your score prediction at the end of it as well?
I think this will be a routine win for Aston Villa. You know, they're at home. Actually, hold up, no, because they've barely got a midfield actually, because a lot of their players have gotten injured. So
Just signed
I'm gonna,
Douglas Luiz.
yeah, so I'm gonna change that actually. I think that they'll still win, I think, but it will be a very, very tough game for them because in the middle of the park, they're gonna be what's the word? They're gonna be quite weak in terms of who they can bring on and who they will start. Um, and with that, I think they will win 2-1, just probably a late winner.
Okay. Thank you. So both backing Aston Villa for the win. And I don't know about you guys, but I think Villa can. I think they can compete for, let's say, second, third position. Unai Emery's words, I keep coming back to them, but in his words, Villa are not top 5 contenders. Matt, of course, I've asked you this a couple of times, but as an Arsenal fan, do you think the Villa can challenge you, or what can they aim for this year? I think they can do better than finish outside the top 5.
Well, I think this just shows Unai Emery's mentality and probably why he never succeeded at Arsenal. Because having the mentality of, we're not even top 5 contenders is absolutely ridiculous when you're 4 points off of first, you're about 8 points clear of fourth place, and I think 10 points clear of fifth. I mean, where's he got that? I don't know where he thinks they're not even top 5 contenders, because even Fulham, Brentford, Newcastle, Everton, Sunderland, they're all top 5 contenders because they're within 3 points of each other. So I don't know where he's got that from or why he's thinking that, but it just shows his mentality. And look, I don't think they're anywhere near competing for a title, but I think they're comfortable top 5 contenders. Very, very comfortable in that they could probably get top 5 in for the next 3 to 5 years if they keep doing what they're doing. I don't know if they're a club that can put that much financial resources into being a title challenging team, because their revenue is fairly decent for them, but what's killing them is the amount of money they spend on wages. In that their ratio, I think, is about 70% of their revenue, or pretty much like 80%, is all on wages. And when you look at teams like Man City, Arsenal, Chelsea, Tottenham, they're in about 40s to 50s. And that's sort of what's needed to, be a top club. So I think that they'll be comfortable top 5 contenders.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate that. So Man United and Fulham then, Louis, if I come to you on this one, can Michael Carrick and his Man United side make it 3 wins out of 3? They are without Patrick Dogu, who's out, for 10 weeks. Unfortunately for them, a bad injury. He was key, arguably in both, if not, in particular the Arsenal win. But yeah, can it be 3 in a row for Michael Carrick?
Look, we know what's gone on with Man United previously, but the problem is to make this prediction. That was sort of the previous manager and how it sort of just worked at Man United. They get a really good result and then it just sort of go downhill. But I don't think we should underestimate this Fulham team. I do understand that they have just beaten Arsenal and City, and they're on very, very good form. But I think I've got a feeling, I don't know why, I just think Fulham might dig deep here. They've been a team that relentlessly keep fighting. They seem to find a goal through thin air in any way, shape or form. And I don't see why they can't bring that to Old Trafford. Dorgu's going to be a very big miss for Man United. He's a guy who's recently stepped up his game to the next level. I remember when he joined the Premier League, a lot of people were saying that he's not fit for the league. Good talent, but he has not been able to execute it as well. This season he has. Whether that was under Amorim or Carrick, he's done very, very well. and he's been, I think, a lot more crucial to this Man United team than people might initially think. And I think just for 1 or 2 games, they might have a small little blip whilst they're getting used to not having him. So I've gone with 1-1.
Thank you very much, Louis, for that one. Matt, if I come to you, what are you thinking ahead of this game? Because both teams arguably in decent form, in particular United in the last 2.
I think there could be an upset here because, well, as much as I want Man United to lose because of what Amad Diallo put on his social media, I want that karma to happen to him. I think there genuinely could be an upset here because Fulham are one of Man United's bogey teams in that they never really seem to win against them. They always seem to get something against Man United when Man United are on, a 2-game winning streak or a 3-game winning streak. We saw it. Was it the start of this season or was it last season where Smith Rowe scored that goal to make it 2-1, I think it was. And they just faltered from there. It was definitely under Ruben Amorim. I'll have to look that up. But
Yeah, I think you're right.
I think it could be a 2-1 Fulham. Even though it's Old Trafford, I just don't think Old Trafford is what it used to be anymore. And I don't think it will be that ever again because I just think there's just too much disconnect between the fan base and the actual football club itself. And they need this new stadium. They do. I'm not sure if it's going to happen, but they do need that new stadium, with the atmosphere and that. So I'll stick with 2-1 for them.
Okay, 2-1 Fulham. So first loss for Michael Carrick. I think they really missed Patrick Dorgu. Okay, interesting. Thank you very much. Next game then, Nottingham Forest against Crystal Palace. Louis, I will come to you because as a West Ham fan, I know you will have eyes on this game. If I'm honest with you, you probably have eyes on it because both A, Palace can fall into the relegation battle, but B, mainly Forest, of course, are the team you're looking for. And you would not like to see they got points against Brentford, which I'm sure that's why you vent your frustration at Brentford for relying on Thiago and Charlotte a little bit. So I do totally get you. You're thinking with that, but how do you feel ahead of this game? And what also do you want? Not only do you think what will happen, what do you think you want to happen as a West Ham fan?
Yeah, I think you're right, Harry. I think my underlying anger is towards Brentford after that poor result last week. They won't be having many positive reviews from me in the future, especially if that costs us towards the end of the season. I wasn't very happy at the TV, let's say that. But in all seriousness, this is a weird game. This is between 2 sides who are, well, one's in a relegation battle and the other one's seemingly in a relegation battle because of their form. So, this what both are. Out of the last 11 meetings that Forest have played against Crystal Palace, they're unbeaten in the last 11. So there's already a bit of a bogey sense going on here. But Palace are in freefall, and I said this last week. They're in freefall, and Forest, well, they've got Europe tonight. I think they're going to find themselves in a very awkward position because I do think they're going to have to play 2 extra games regardless, unless there's a very freak set of results. So that'll be 2 more games for Forest. But both of these sides have got to be very, very careful. They are both fighting for relegation. Forest more than Palace at the minute due to the table positioning and, Forest only being 5 points off the drop. Palace having, I think, an 8-point cushion at the moment. But this can all change within a matter of weeks. With a West Ham cap on, I'd love to say a draw for this game. Just because it's both teams not getting too far away from us. And I think if you look at both teams' upcoming fixtures, Palace have got some not easy, but easier fixtures compared to teams like Leeds, Forest, West Ham. And that might be their saving grace for not getting relegated. But from the books of the media report, they're going to lose Mateta. And they have signed Strand Larsen for a astonishing 50 million fee, which is...
I just want to cut in there. It doesn't look like they are going to sign Strand Larsen. A few doubts have emerged from Strand Larsen to Crystal Palace because they've yet to submit a written bid to Wolves, as Wolves were expecting it today after positive verbal talks around a 50 million deal.
Well, there we go. What it does look like, though, regardless of whether that transfer happens or not, it looks like they're going to lose Mateta.
Yes,
Forest are after him, which is quite convenient. But I have heard recently, I don't know how this is going to develop, but Milan are also after him. So anything can happen, anything can happen. I think this will be a very tough game, and I'm going to go with. It is really, really tough. But I'm going to go with Palace finally ending this 11-game no-win streak. I'll go with 2-1 Palace.
Okay, thank you very much. I actually think your best bet, and I could be wrong about this, is if Palace keep on losing games, because I actually think that if Forest get it right, let's say I think the worst thing for you is Forest go out of Europe, believe it or not. Excuse me. If they go out of Europe, it means that they focus on the league, and they've got the squad. And that's the thing, they've got the squad that you don't and that Palace don't as well, because they spent a lot of money, remember. So it's not perfect, but Forest have got players to bring off the bench that can impact the game. I think if Forest play their cards right, they can pull themselves away. Whereas if Palace keep losing and they sack Gazna, of course they will get a new manager bounce. But again, they have to make the appointment rushed, whether it be interim likely or permanent. So it'll be a rushed appointment. And I don't think they'll come in and do a fantastic job. I think the Palace could really get dragged into something, but time will tell.
And unfortunately, the person who built Nottingham Forest squad was Nuno. And with the way Nuno builds his squads, he likes to have a lot of reinforcements everywhere and have a very, very balanced squad. And that has benefited. Forest could win the Europa League for all I care. As long as they keep having extra games, it benefits West Ham. They're already out of the FA Cup, I believe, Nottingham Forest. So
yes. Tonight will be a big one for you, though, to find out whether they go through automatically, don't go through at all, or go through via the playoffs.
From what I have seen, it would need a very big set freak of events for Forest to automatically go through tonight.
It needs 3 or 4 things, doesn't it?
Yeah, needs a lot. So it's very, very much likely that they will go through, but only to the qualifying rounds.
Can they go out altogether? I don't know about that.
I think they can, but it would it would be very, very, very unlikely.
Well, we saw last night something quite unlikely in the Champions League.
Good point.
Benfica's goalkeeper. What is that about? I know it's not Premier League related, but goodness me. I mean, listen, there's so many headlines in there. We know the biggest, but Benfica beating Real Madrid 4-2. That's a huge headline, literally huge as it is, right? Benfica just beating Real Madrid is just wow, by 2 goals as well, scoring 4 goals against Real Madrid. It just, whatever way you want to paint it, that's absolutely huge. And scoring a 97th, 98th minute winner, however it is, that's a huge headline in itself. But the goalkeeper being the one to do that, again, that's the biggest headline. But also the fact that it's Jose Mourinho and that Benfica were going out until that goal. So I don't think you see anything like that. You very rarely see something that dramatic, and if you do, it will not be the goalkeeper that scores, and with his head as well. And past Courtois as well, he's not an easy goalkeeper to score past. He really spreads himself very well in goal. But
you don't want to know, Sank, as well, right? Is that that goal doesn't happen in the old format, because the old format on the last group stage game in the Champions League, it's just to see who can qualify and who goes down to the Europa League. With this, it was because Benfica at 3-2 were eliminated completely. So they needed to score to drop Marseille down and themselves go up. And that goal basically saved them. And then, they're in the playoffs. But yeah, it's crazy.
Absolutely crazy. I mean, definitely one that will be watched many times on highlights by all of us, really. Let's be frank with that. Tottenham then against Man City. I will not be giving too many thoughts on this one. Tottenham are an interesting side to talk about. Let's just say prime Barcelona in Europe, and then I don't know, a washed-up team in the Premier League. Louis, I'll come to you to start with this one. How do you see this going? I mean, Tottenham have typically got the better of Man City in quite a few meetings. Majority, if not all, of the meetings in the last few years. So how do you view this one going? Do you think, again, familiar story that Tottenham will be able to get the job done?
Look, let's not bring up any stats. Let's not bring up how players are doing, who's available and who isn't, because it doesn't mean anything when it comes to this game. It is one of those seasons where Spurs could lose 36 games in a season and they beat City twice. That's what I don't know why this happens every year, but every time I see Spurs play City, first thing that comes to my head is, oh, Spurs have won it. Spurs always seem to find a way with City. And you know what? I think it will probably happen again. I don't think you're going to beat City. I think this game's going to end up being 1-1, which is what I've predicted. But I just think somehow Spurs always manage to get something out of a City game. I know, obviously, the game earlier on in the year, when Spurs beat City, was a bit more of a set of luck and freak events. The Trafford mistake was quite memorable and probably something that has seen him remain on the bench. I just think this game's going to end up being 1-1. I'm not putting too much logic to it. I'm not taking form into account. I'm just going off with what history's told us, and maybe it will continue on. So I've gone with 1-1.
Okay, thank you very much. Interesting that. I mean, a draw helps neither, I'd argue. And don't get me wrong, nobody typically wants a draw. I'm not say always. Sometimes context, well, majority of the time, context is key, and draw can be a great result. But before a ball's kicked, most teams wouldn't take a draw unless you're Wolves away to City or something like that drastic. And in this game, City have to keep winning to keep up with Arsenal. Tottenham is not a desperate or dire situation to win, but when the game's got coming up, I mean, City's incredibly tough, and they don't get any easier at all. They certainly do not get easier. So, but Tottenham, we just got to get maximum points because 8 points from safety at the moment, and that could just change so quickly. After this, I think it's Newcastle, Chelsea, United, Arsenal coming up as well. So those are the type of games we've got to face, and then it goes Palace and things like that. So it could be really tough. Matt, how do you view this game? Can Tottenham, carry their incredible form, really? I'll say incredible in the Champions League, because 6 clean sheets and finishing fourth in the end, going through automatically. Tottenham have a really good home form in that as well, the best in the Champions League, joint best, I believe, with you guys that up there. And then, like, at home in the league, absolutely awful. Just like 3 or 4 wins there in 2025, for example. That we've had any this year in 2026 in the league, so that isn't good. But can Tottenham change his fortune and really, approach this game and keep their good run ultimately against City as well?
No. It's straight no. I think we're gonna see a battering. I think the fact that it's at Tottenham Stadium is even more the reason to say that it could be a high scoring game. Because typically they don't perform well at home in the Premier League. I have to say that because at home in the Champions League, you guys are insane. So I think this might be 4-0 Man City.
Oh, 4-0 City. Ouch. That would be a huge scoreline indeed, putting the pressure on Thomas Frank. Sunderland and Burnley then, the last game. So Burnley, they love a draw. I absolutely love a draw. Their last 3 have been a draw, and it's a lot better than Burnley losing, but it's been an awful, and I mean awfully long time since they've got a victory. And tell you what, if they draw every game from now to the end of the year, they go down. Let's be clear about that. So they have to start winning games. I think they do, if I'm honest. Louis, I'll come to you. For Burnley, can they get a win? I mean, nobody's really been able to say that, have they? At the stadium like this year, can fortunes change? I've got a feeling that they could.
Burnley. One of the most consistently inconsistent teams. They are bizarre. That's the way I can put them. I don't know. One minute they can't score a goal, and then the next minute they get the goals, and then they can't defend. I don't know. For example, just take the last 2 weeks. Winning in a winning position against Spurs, and they couldn't hold their own, and they ended up getting a draw. But against Liverpool, they held their own for ages. At Anfield, it's bizarre to me, and it's just shocking. I mean, if we look at their last 5 games, they've scored 10 goals. So there's been an improvement with the amount of goals they've been able to score, which is something they were struggling with at the beginning of the season. But they they're too rash. They're too 1 minute they're great defensively, and next minute they're not. They're too inconsistent. They've conceded the most penalties this season out of any team, with 6, and they always seem to just provide opportunities for other teams to get into the game. I mean, I won't say that I watched the entirety of the Burnley Spurs game. I did only watch the highlights, but watching those highlights towards the end, I'm just sat there thinking, just get the ball and boot it out, put it in the corner flag, just do anything you can to get it out of your box. Don't camp the box. That is a silly decision, and it was poor because that was a game they really should have won for their sake of hoping to survive. And Sunderland, they've been a very, very bad performance against West Ham last week. I am not just saying that because they played us. It was a genuinely poor performance. But I do think they'll bounce back. They are a good team. They still have that ability to grab a goal out of nowhere. They've only won one of their last 5 games, but I do think, given that this is at the Stadium of the Light, it will be a victory for them. So I've gone 2-1 Sunderland.
Okay, good stuff. Thank you very much. I appreciate that to kick us off. Matt, to end, give us your thoughts on your score prediction then. I mean, Sunderland's so strong. The Stadium of Light, their form's not been as good in the last few weeks, but still, going okay.
It's going to be a quite short preview because there's not really much to add on to this game. Sunderland are at home and they're unbeaten at home, I believe. And I just see this going one way, and that's just a 2-1 Sunderland win. I just don't think Burnley have got any minerals and mentality to, do much at the Stadium of Light.
Okay, thank you very much. That wraps us up then, I think, for the preview. Gameweek 24 done swiftly in good time as well. So thank you very much. And to everyone that listened, and for any Spurs fans that might be listening, or any Frankfurt or Man City fans, then I have the Scarfey Spurs Talk podcast on air in 16 minutes time, hosted by myself. I still have a voice by then. So we'll be reviewing the Frankfurt win in the Champions League, then turning attention to the Premier League. Not something I like saying as a Spurs fan, but that is what we will be doing as we face Man City. It's a nice fixture though for Spurs to be talking about. So do check that one out and get involved. Dan is waiting for you to send prediction videos and get edit. After I've got a 16-minute gap, so I'll film some of it for you, Dan, absolutely, and send it over. Bear with me. I'll wrap this up for you. I haven't forgotten. Don't worry. Thank you very much, everyone that watched the Scarfey Talks Premier League podcast. Come back next episode on Tuesday as we review Game Week 24 and also preview the Premier League clubs in the Carabao Cup. I believe, isn't it, next week, Tuesday, Wednesday? We've got a second leg of those semi-finals, so that should be good if I'm not mistaken. So stay tuned for that. Thank you to Matt and Louis. Louis, where can people find you on social media?
On X can be found at Louis Van as on screen.
Great stuff. Thank you. Matt, lastly, where can people follow you? You got Matt's handle there, AFC, and Matt, make sure to check him out on X. Thank you very